Hi and welcome to Terry Travels. This time around we're going really adventurous. What I'm going to do is take the longest tram route in Melbourne, the 75, which goes from here in Docklands all the way for 22.5 kilometres, which is such a long way, to Vermont South, a very prosaic eastern suburb of Melbourne, Tram. So I'm going to get on the tram. It's not going to cost much, probably won't take terribly long, but we go through some really interesting parts of Melbourne. And before I do, there's the Balti Bridge up ahead, named after one of our less salubrious state premiers. There's also a whole bunch of marinas here, and over there is where the Geelong Flyer takes off to Port Arlington. It's a ferry that goes all the way down Port Phillip Bay to Port Arlington a couple of times a day. There's a nice cafe there, and if you need to go to the toilet, there's a toilet there as well. But I'm going to be getting on the trams here and banging it down to the unlovely Vermont South on this enormously long tram route, 22.5 kilometres. It's not as epic a journey as I might take otherwise, but I've got to start somewhere with the channel, so let's get on the tram and bang our way to the deepest, darkest eastern suburbs. Okay, we're off and running and going through Docklands. We're then going to turn down Flinders Street and go through Richmond and all sorts of other places like that. I'll do a voiceover for most of this video for the simple reason that it's a little inconvenient to vlog and talk while I'm on the road. But so far so good, and the weather is holding out, which is really good. But I'll catch you guys when something interesting happens. It's Melbourne, so don't expect too much. There's a lot of really ugly buildings around here just before you get onto Flinders Street and head toward the eastern suburbs. This weird looking building here is the old Mariners Hall, where they it's basically a respite for seamen who were in the ports of Melbourne. The Mission to Seamen is called. Don't know a lot about it, but it was run by a group of people just basically offering something for people to do when they came in on the ships when Melbourne was one of the major ports for Australia. Okay, we're now on Flinders Street properly, which goes along the south side of the Melbourne Central Business District. This is not the most salubrious part of Melbourne. Along here, along the waterfront, there are a lot of unhoused people who are living in the parks, which is not their fault, and I'm not going to kind of come down on them at all, because it's not their fault, but they are around. And also, a lot of these apartments are pretty bloody ugly from the look of it. Nonetheless, you can get some decent feed here, and you can also get Domino's Pizza. But as soon as we get past these few buildings, you'll see the arches and the parkways and the Melbourne Aquarium, which I've shown in the last video from the other viewpoint. There's the aquarium there, that blue thing behind the bridge. But there it is, the entrance there with the giant jellyfish, because Port Phillip Bay is mostly jellyfish. And there's the railway overpass as well. We're going to be heading towards Flinders Street Station soon. And Flinders Street Station is a crazy old school 19th century railway station. It's very grandiose. By the way, we are still in the free tram zone as well. So if you're tooling around Melbourne City, you can get on and off the trams whenever you like and not have to pay anything. There you can just see the river through there. And eventually, after this next stop, we get to a place called the Arches, where there are businesses built under the archways for the railway lines. They're not the quietest of businesses, but they are there. And in the last video, I walked on the other side of the river going the other way when I was heading down towards Crown Casino, which is off to my right. But here are the businesses under the archways. There used to be a gym full of steroid jocks. There's a River Cruisers Fight Club. What the hell, they have a fight club? MMA Fight Club. And then there's Doherty's gym just a little further along. But why would you have a fight club at all? And why would you have one in the city? That's some mad gear right there. And I'm sure it's lucrative, but why? Here we go, you'll see Doherty's gym there. This little building here used to be a news agency that also sold dirty magazines. We're now coming up to one of the entrances to Flinders Street Station, which is pretty impressive. I'll just scroll up if I can to show you a bit more of it there. This is the end of it, and Hearn's Hobbies is just here, which is a hobby shop which has been going since, I don't know, since Moses was playing cowboys. And here's the secondary entrance to Flinders Street Station. And we're coming up to the main entrance. Up here, in the top part of that, there's actually a disused ballroom as well, where it's like a full-size ballroom up there, which is not being used. And now we're getting to the famous Flinders Street clocks, which you can't see from here because of the tram stop, but it is here. And one of the meeting places that people had, if they wanted to meet people in Melbourne before we had text messaging, was to meet people under the clocks. So I'm going to stop recording the voiceover in a moment and do a bit of a voiceover later. But yeah, we're heading well into the city, and you'll see Acme where we were in the last video. So I'm actually looping around to where I was in the last video. This is around the part of Melbourne where all of the sports ball stadiums are over the other side of the railway tracks there. I'm not big on them. I've only ever gone to the Melbourne cricket ground once, so I'm not a sports ball kind of guy. But I thought I'd speed things up here and just get things moving. Yeah, I've got no reason to go over that part of town. It's got absolutely nothing to do with me. This is better. This is Richmond, and I did some slow-mo in Richmond. So you can take a look at the houses, and the houses are above the shops. And there are a lot of shops here, and I kind of like this one because it's got a kind of dreaminess about doing this slow motion, and I love the way my camera does slow motion here. Just so much old buildings and very cool shop fronts. The area ebbs and flows as far as the shops being occupied and not. Very busy at night time. It's quite the place to take people. Yeah, oh, fur. I would not mind a fur. When I was going past this today, I really love the idea of stopping and getting myself a Vietnamese fur because I just love it. Now, this pub on the corner used to be run by a sports ball guy called Ron Barassi, and it was very popular at the time. And, of course, across the road, you've got a rub and tug place, the massage joint. This is all Bridge Road, Richmond. I used to live off Bridge Road on Church Street, just up the hill a little bit. When I first moved to Melbourne, in fact, I was couch surfing with friends, and that's where I lived until I moved to St Kilda. And I should do a video on St Kilda for you in future. It's a much more interesting place than a lot of the places you're going to see in this video. And I really shouldn't be down talking this video because I want you to watch it.
So I'm going to just go to the end of Bridge Road now, and I'll show you where I had an accident once upon a time. And here is where I show you the other side of the tram and the people in the tram. Kind of doing a slow motion on this one, which makes it even more dreamy. I just love the way this camera does slow motion. It's kind of magical and creepy at the same time, which is what I was shooting for. In fact, see that corner down there? That corner down there is Church Street. And I used to live about halfway up the hill, you'll see in just a moment, in some very ugly apartments, but I was couch surfing, and I'll always thank the people who let me stay on their couches while I was getting my shit together in Melbourne. Of course, there are lots of pubs and repurposed pubs and trams that get in the way of me talking about them. And of course, they're doing a lot of renovations and tearing things down, but let's just go to the end of Bridge Road, where we get to the river for which the bridge is named. The Yarra River bends around. We went past it in the city, but it bends around and crosses Bridge Road just a bit further down. There we go. There it is, the Yarra River bending around and coming beneath the bridge here at Richmond. It's a muddy river. It's always been a muddy river as far as I know. There used to be a lot of industry along the river, which polluted the hell out of it for a lot of the 19th and 20th centuries. But there's been a concerted effort ever since then to clean it all up and make it a tourist attraction, which I'm not sure it's ever going to be, but you can always have those ambitions. And this intersection up here, which you can barely see because I didn't focus it well, is where I had an accident and broke my wrist. I was on my bicycle going up the hill here and going down towards the right there, when the tram track grabbed the front wheel of my bicycle and wrenched it. And I went over the handlebars and fell on my left wrist and broke the scaphoid bone in my wrist. And so I found, this was before mobile phones, this was 1990s. And so I found a phone down at a 7-Eleven and called my girlfriend, who didn't leave work for 2.5 hours before she picked me up, sitting raggedly outside of 7-Eleven. This is the bit, as we go around this corner, is the bit where I realised how much I dislike this part of town. It's very Anglo-Saxon, let's say, and it's very politically to the right. And all of these houses here are worth $4 or $5 million. Well, they're not worth it. That's what they cost. And all of them are, to be honest with you, most of them are terribly fugly and big. But it's not my part of town. It's not a part of town I like. I like things to be a little more crispy and diverse in the areas I like to hang out in. I like ethnic diversity. I like different restaurants, and I just like the vibe of a multicultural place much more than I like the somewhat monocultural world that we get in the eastern suburbs. Now here we're going along Glenferrie Road, and Glenferrie Road has one virtue. My friend Perry Middlemas has a project where he wants to eat lunch at every restaurant and cafe along Glenferrie Road, the whole length of it. He's retired and he needed a project, so he's decided he's going to eat in all the restaurants all along here. He hasn't finished it yet, and he stopped for a little while, but he's now going back to it. But he does a restaurant review in his Facebook page of every restaurant he goes to. And here are some more of these early 20th century California bungalow-style houses that cost an enormous amount of money. They are truly enormously expensive to buy and live in now. And there's one of those posters. Now, these posters are for the recently finished federal election, and I'm going to just pause on one of them now. That candidate, Amelia Hamer, was incredibly controversial during the election, and I'll tell you why. She was telling people that she rented her house and that she was a renter and knew how hard it was for people who rent. And somebody did a quick Google search and found out that Amelia Hamer, the Liberal Party candidate for this particular area, which had an independent candidate called Dr. Monique Ryan, who got back in. But Amelia Hamer, who was claiming to be a renter and who was the grandniece of a long-term Victorian state premier, owns a flat in London and also owns an investment property in our nation's capital, Canberra. So she was begging poor when she was actually as cashed up as you get. And she also has about a $20 million trust fund. So you'll see a lot of her call flutes, which is what those posters are called, along here. And she is really somebody who, because of her family connections, was thought to be a good candidate for federal parliament and turned out to be a singularly dishonest and unsuccessful one, just to let you know. But as we delved further and further into the eastern suburbs of Melbourne, the leafy right-wing suburbs, I got a bit sad because these places are not my places. They're not even places I like. I did live in the eastern suburbs in a place called Balwyn North for over 4 years in the 1990s. And for every day I was there, I hated it. The people were a lot more conservative than I was. They were a lot more religious than I was. They were not my tribe at all. And so I lived there with somebody for quite a long time. I always found it an incredibly beige place. And going through it on this journey to go the longest tram route in Melbourne really made me sad in a weird way. And then when I got to Vermont South, I went to a place, and you'll see this in the video, that sucked all the will to live out of me. There's a shopping centre in Vermont South, which is a vampire for your will to live. It is incredibly dull and incredibly horrible and incredibly outdated and incredibly creepily innovating. And you'll see that in a little bit. But we'll get back to the video. Apparently the tram was running a bit fast, so they're actually staying at this stop for 3 minutes, which is a little bit unusual, but there's nothing here but used car places and places to renovate your kitchen. So there's not a lot you could do getting out and stretching your legs here. To be honest with you, I'm kind of bored with this ride. It's through a whole bunch of really kind of bougie suburbs. There's nothing terribly interesting on the tram route. But I'm going to persevere to the end. But on the way back, I'm going to try to find a quicker way to get home. Maybe find a train line that I can get to with a bus or a tram and take it from there, because I'm not taking this tram ride back. Like the longest bus ride in Melbourne, it's incredibly dull and incredibly bum-numbing. So we'll see how we go, and I'll let you know. Okay, I made it
to Vermont South. God, that was boring. The most boring part of Melbourne. I've forgotten that. The eastern suburbs are the most boring part of Melbourne. Nonetheless, I'm here. I'm going to go and get a drink and a toilet break and maybe a little food. Then I'm going to take a bus to Box Hill and take a train to the city and then a train home. It's only 65 kilometres. So I'll do a little bit of B-roll going home, and then I'll leave you with my thoughts on Melbourne's longest tram route. 76 stops. And it gets worse. I just got into the Vermont South shopping centre, and it's a 1990s time warp. It's amazing how dated this place is. I'm friggin' stunned. Record players. Oh, it's just so, like 30 years ago. Totally amazed by it. But, yeah, I'm just totally blown away by this. I'll actually show you the worst of it down here. Really is something extraordinarily wow. I mean, they do have a gacha machine, but they're all empty. But just check this out. It is so 1990s. Stunned. That's the only word I've got for stunned. Okay. I'm getting out of here.
Next stop, Hanover Reserve.